Battlefield 2042. Let's talk about it. So, Battlefield 2042 is not really that old, and I know it had a bunch of issues when it first released, but honestly, a lot of those issues have been fixed. So, when I first tried to play this when it came out, the game was garbage. You couldn't really play anything. There's so many glitches. Some of them are common Battlefield glitches, and not really even glitches where you can like launch a tank through like basically the ceiling of the game if you put enough C4 or mines or something under it without it blowing up. There's a lot of stuff like that, um, but really, it really wasn't playable. Just like flying cars and trucks and stuff like that aren't supposed to fly. A bunch of weird little glitches and things like that made the game almost unplayable. But now is what I'm talking about, just because I don't think it's fair to judge that game based on its original version, because it really did get released prior to being finished, which, although I don't think they should have done that, it is almost a different game now. So currently, there is not a campaign on the game. I don't think they ever will add one to it, just because their whole point was focusing on multiplayer. But without the campaign, I personally don't feel like the game was worth $60. I know it is on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate right now for free, so you could get it that way, in which case it's a fun multiplayer to play. But otherwise, I don't think it's worth $60. So there's a few different game modes currently on it. You have Conquest, which is an objective capturing game mode, in which I think it's roughly 60v60. I know you can play against players, you can play with players, you can play solo with AI, you can play with players against AI, you can play solo against all AI. So there's quite a few different options to play it that way. I personally enjoy the Conquest mode. I think it's a lot of fun. I haven't really run into any issues now. Not really any glitches or anything like that. The AI is actually pretty intelligent, so that's really nice and refreshing to see. A lot of games like this that have AIs, they aren't very intelligent. It's not very smooth to play with them. Some things like that. But the AI actually makes some pretty impressive choices when they play against you. Um, Playing with other players, I haven't really run into very many issues either. Worst I've run into is like some lag related issues where you might lag under the map, but nothing too major now. It was a lot bigger of an issue before. They also have, I think it's called Breakthrough, where you essentially are just like a surge team and you rush up and you try and capture an objective from a group of enemies, and then they fall back, and then you try and take the next objective and the next objective and the next objective. Again, you can play solo with AI, or you can play with teammates, or you can play against other people. In my opinion, again, it's better to play against the AI because it just runs smoother, which is kind of disappointing because for a multiplayer game, if you can't really multiplayer it, then there's not much of a game, is there? The multiplayer is not horrible still. It's still got some bugs and some glitches in Breakthrough, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I definitely enjoy Breakthrough now. I've played with a couple of buddies. Hopefully, I can get some more to play with me because it is enjoyable. But again, it's nothing revolutionary or groundbreaking, especially for Battlefield. They do have Rush and a couple other game modes that are all about playing with players. They have some game modes just like Warzone where they release every once in a while and then they go away. So there is stuff like that. I just don't think for $60 this game's really that impressive or really worth it, especially without a campaign. Warzone's completely free, and if you're basically just playing Warzone but in Battlefield, you might as well go play Warzone for free. Now I know the Warzone 2.0, as far as I've heard, it sucks, but I'll go into that at a different point in time. So overall, Battlefield 2042, it was a garbage game at release. You couldn't really play it. There was no reason to get it, no reason to pay for it. There was nothing good about the game. Everything was broken. Everything was bad. But currently, for the 4 or 5 game types that are on there, especially if you're playing with AI and against AI, it is a fun game. It is enjoyable, but I don't think it's worth $60. The graphics on the game are pretty good. The game engine doesn't really crash at all, even with crappy internet connection, because I've tested that as well. So that's kind of impressive. Not a lot of lag spikes or anything like that. Even when you're playing conquest maps and other stuff like that, where you have absolutely massive amounts of people and machines and stuff moving around. So in that case, that's pretty impressive. You do have quite a few different maps that you can play on for each of the game modes. So it's not like you only have like 2 or 3 maps like some of the other Battlefield games did have. So that is also really nice. The guns, they're kind of a pain to unlock, but they're not super bad. There is a lot of different guns and options and combinations. You can also customize your guns in game, which was kind of a huge thing about Battlefield 2042 before it released. And I really like that. I really enjoy playing that way. Being able to customize my sights, my ammo, what I have on my under barrel, all kinds of stuff like that, especially for all the different guns. Some of the guns, however, you can't really customize. They're just kind of like unique weapons, like a 1911 or something like that, and you can't really customize them. But overall, you can customize the majority of the weapons quite a good ways. They have lots of different options. Some of the options are available on certain guns and not on other guns as well, so you do have quite a selection there as well. I also really enjoy the fact that the things like the tanks can be customized, like you can put different shells on them, different smoke canisters and options and things like that. I really like that. That's really cool. I haven't really seen that in very many games, so I think it's pretty impressive. I know World of Tanks has something similar, but not quite nearly as in detail as this. Some of the cars have customizations, the planes, the helicopters all have customizations. All the different stuff has got some sort of a combination one way or another. So I think that's pretty cool. Haven't seen that very often. But beyond that, there's just really not much to Battlefield 2042. There is some stuff there. It is worth playing. It is a lot of fun to play now. I would definitely check it out, especially if you like the other Battlefield games, at least their multiplayers. Especially if you can get a couple of like 2 or 3 guys with you, then it would be pretty fun to play with your buddies mostly. But I just say that because, if you're playing with randoms, you still run into it where, some people are just really high level and they just go through and crush it and then they yell and scream at you, normal game stuff. Or people who are really low and you gotta carry them. Or just toxic players in general who hog certain vehicles and things like that and you can't use them. Which, everybody's got their preference, but even people playing only certain classes preventing you from being able to have a full range and be able to play as well as you could if you were playing with your buddies and everyone had like talked through what class they were going to play. So I think it's good, especially if you can play with a group of friends, but it's really up to you to check it out and see if you like it for $60. If you can get it for free, I definitely would, but I would not want someone to spend $60 on this game. It just doesn't have the content there to make it worth $60.